Okay, so we're here with Christy.
And we get to share her story for her son, Caden, who is now 8 weeks old.
Yeah.
And so such a great just testament to chiropractic care for a baby, a little baby. So whenever we see babies in our office, one of the most important things we look at is we look at physical stress from the birthing process, but we also look at mental and emotional stress. In this case, prenatal mental and emotional stress.
Yeah.
Because prenatal cortisol does cross the placenta.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I think is really under looked at and under talked about is the impact that mental and emotional stress on mom can have on baby.
Okay.
So tell us just a little bit about your preconception, conception, and then pregnancy story before we get to birth.
Okay. So we had kind of a rough journey to get to Caden. We had 3 miscarriages prior to actually getting pregnant with him. It ended up being a progesterone issue, but we had 2 chemical pregnancies and a blighted ovum. So we went through 8 months of infertility. And after 3 recurrent miscarriages, I finally saw a fertility specialist and we addressed what was going on. Luckily, we got pregnant with Caden, and the pregnancy itself was smooth sailing up until about the end, where my OB/GYN said that he wasn't dropping very well. And at my 40-week appointment, he just was sitting very high. And so I think there was a bit of stress near the end of my pregnancy when I was told that I might have to have a C-section. And I was very against it. I did not want to be induced. I did not want a C-section, and saw a high-risk doctor, and they said, no, this baby needs to come out within a week. And they were really adamant about that, which was very frightening for me. I ended up getting induced. Again, not something I wanted to do. I was in labor, not active labor, but labor for 30 hours, and then ultimately had to convert to a C-section. During that 30-hour period, they artificially broke my water, and then 12 hours later, I hadn't had a lot of progression, and so I actually ended up getting an infection, and it felt like I had the flu. They actually had to put me on antibiotics. They had to put my son on antibiotics, which was absolutely horrible for me. But my point is, the preconception as well as the birth process was extremely stressful for both me and Caden. And I ended up having a C-section and didn't want that, but that's ultimately what happened. So I think we've seen a lot of repercussions from a birth like that. Not saying that a C-section's terrible, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I can see, some issues that have rose from that type of birth.
Yeah, well, and it's so powerful because I think a lot of times, a lot of moms, especially the first-time mom, you have your idea of what you expect the birth process to be, or even what you have your ideal birth outcome to be. And I think a lot of times, we talk about birth in respect to obviously want happy, healthy baby.
Yeah.
And so being able to eventually obviously have the C-section, Caden's, doing well. But I think the grief that moms go through the process, especially when you do have that history of miscarriages too, because it really is going back into the trauma.
Yeah.
And you think from just a mental and emotional component on, how hard that is on mom. And then you're going into delivery, which is everyone wants to tell their scare story. And so the intimidation factor mixed with some of the grief of being able to process, hey, what if this doesn't turn out the way that I had planned? And so I think navigating that and how, like we talked about, prenatal stress does cross the placenta. Cortisol across the placenta. Okay, so then we get to birth.
Yeah.
And we talked about the antibiotics. We talked about the C-section.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, because we talk about 3 forms of stress. And so we have physical stress. So for Caden, this is when he first came in, we walked through this. We said, okay, what would we expect to find in his body from a physical tension standpoint, from a chiropractic standpoint? And that's a combination of how much stress we've been exposed to. So we talked about, physical stress. We have a C-section. We also have being induced, because being induced is really intense. Yeah. Especially, when you're laboring for 30 hours. Yeah. And just the pressure that is on baby. And then we have the antibiotics, which is environmental stressors.
Yeah.
And, not saying that, we're happy for modern medicine when it's available to us, but then talking about, okay, now we're exposed to antibiotics, and then the mental and emotional component that we talked about. So when we brought him in, okay, we're saying these are the boxes we're checking on why we would expect to find tension in Caden's body.
Right.
But that's from the chiropractic standpoint. From your standpoint as mom, how was that showing up symptom-wise in Caden?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was showing up. Like, he had a lot of GI issues, and I found out later through you that could be due to the C-section. So, I noticed that after nursing him, he'd be very uncomfortable. I could tell there was like a lot of trapped gas that he was not able to pass very well. And he also had quite a bit of reflux. So I felt like going down and going up, there was a lot of just issues. And so I knew chiropractic could help that. And we already knew we were going to come see you regardless. But I think like when he did start showing those symptoms, I said, we need to get in there right now, because he was 2 weeks, I think, when we came to see you. But I could just see the effects of a C-section and all that stress manifesting in him and showing up as GI symptoms. And so it was hard, because it was, you feed every 2 hours. So it's like, feed him, and then he goes through all these symptoms, and for the next 2 hours, you're just trying to calm him down. He's upset. You can tell you can't help him. I was trying to do the bicycle. I was doing everything that I could try to do that I could from home. And it just wasn't, it worked a little bit, but not a lot. And ultimately we needed more professional help to help him through this.
Yeah.
Because it was really hard to watch and just see his face in pain, and knowing that there's not a whole lot I could do to help him until I started coming here.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually, it's so interesting because, talking about the discomfort and how hard it is, as a mom to watch them, baby go through that, and even like unable to settle and being like, we're trying all the things.
Yeah.
And there was a really cool moment even on his first visit when he was crying and he was upset. And we always talk about this. Like, every time he's upset and he gets adjusted, it's like he comes in upset and he's crying, and during his adjustment, he just relaxes.
I told my parents that, because I was like, you'd be so shocked, because I don't want to come in with a crying baby into your clinic. There's other patients and stuff. So I always try really hard to bring him in quiet, but he's a baby. So I get nervous to bring him in here, but there was one day where I brought him into you and he's crying, and I'm already pulled back in the room, and I'm just like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to do here, because I'm already pulled back in the room and I can't leave, and he's screaming, and I'm like, I don't know. So then you come in and you're just like, it's okay, it's fine. And you just, whatever you did, whatever magic you did over there, he just suddenly like went to sleep. And I've told that story to all my friends and my parents, because it's like, you would not believe the fact that he was screaming, and then she just goes and presses wherever she pressed, and he fell asleep in my arms. And I was like, can you just live with us, I guess? Because that was crazy to see that.
Well, and it's so powerful, because it really is. And we talked about this, like that we think about chiropractic from a traditional standpoint in adults, and you think, hey, you know what? If something feels off, or, my neck hurts, or I feel something, I would communicate that.
Right.
And when we're babies, we can't communicate.
Definitely.
And crying is our way of communicating.
Yeah.
And so, you can run through the list of things, whether that be, hungry or tired, but sometimes it's actually trying to communicate physical discomfort. And it's amazing when, they are upset, and then during the adjustment, they settle. And it's such a testament to, because a lot of moms in your situation are nervous to try chiropractic.
Definitely. I mean, I was
baby.
too. Even being married to a chiropractor, like, I was still nervous too. Like, I had to do a little bit of research to feel more comfortable with it. And now that I've seen it and see how gentle it is, it's not nearly as scary as it sounds when you're like, oh, I'm taking my baby to get adjusted. I think that is like a scare, like a jump scare for people, but it's truly not like an adult adjustment that you see online of like the crack and the pop and really, it looks more intense than it is. And when you're with Caden, you're so gentle with him, and just, I see the way you press, and I see how hard you're pressing, and obviously I watch that stuff, and it's not nearly as scary as it sounds, I guess. I mean, even being married to a chiropractor, I was like, oh, really? We're going to adjust a baby? Like, and when we first had that conversation, I was surprised. And then the more I researched it, the more I looked into it, watched videos, I was like, oh, that's not what I thought it was. Like, it's very gentle and clearly very effective. So
Well, and it's so powerful because and I love that experience, because even being married to a chiropractor, it's saying, hey, you know what, like he had brought it up that he had wanted to get Caden adjusted. And I love your perspective on saying, hey, you know what, okay, I need to learn more about that. Because I think so many parents think, okay, I know this exists. But because maybe they are not as familiar with chiropractic or the world of chiropractic, unfortunately, they get in further down the road when the symptoms, they're really desperate. And so one of the number one things we talk about in chiropractic is it tends to be people, whether that be baby, adult, teenager, wherever you're at on the spectrum, it can be some people saying, hey, this is my last resort. I've tried everything else. This is just saying last ditch effort. If this helps, this will be great. But it's so sad because it tends to be so far down the road. So early on, like we talked about the benefits of the fact that we were addressing those concerns in Caden early versus letting them stay stagnant and then grow and build and how that was going to set him up for success.
Yeah. And I mean, on our first visit, you talked about the 6 to 8 week mark. And so I brought him in, I think, at 2 weeks. And it was really early, whatever it was. And you had told me that, you know, he's already showing symptoms at 2 weeks. And really, like, these symptoms kind of heighten at week 6 to 8. So, like, the fact that we're in here early and addressing this 4 weeks before it's going to hit the peak, like, is great. And I will say, for the 6 to 8 week time slot, it was fine. In fact, it was significantly better than when we brought him in at 2 to 3 weeks when he's supposed to be sleeping and doing nothing else. So I think us addressing that early on, what saved me that traditional, you know, growth spurt or whatever they go through at that time period where they show those symptoms more.
Yeah, when the symptoms really start to peak, where we see, hey, we can't turn our neck. Hey, we're, you know, we did have, you know, some vomiting, but where we're saying, hey, projectile vomiting is just excessive. Or reflux, unable to settle, or colic, when we start to see these things start to build because they were unaddressed. Okay, so where you're at now with chiropractic care. If you were to say one thing to a mom who is interested in saying, hey, my child is going through some of these similar struggles, maybe dealing with reflux, maybe torticollis, cancer in their head. And they're saying, hey, you know what, I've tried other options and I don't know where to go. What would be the best thing that you would say to that mom interested in being potentially trying chiropractic care?
I would tell them not to be scared to come here. Like it's amazing the difference that I've seen in Caden, and even just, let's see, he's 8 weeks now. So we've been doing this for 6 weeks, I guess. It's incredible the difference. And like you mentioned, the neck turning, he had his 2-month appointment on Monday, and my doctor told me he had like right-sided torticollis, and he wasn't, or maybe it's whatever it is, he wasn't turning his head to the right very well. And I came to you on Tuesday. I told you what the doctor said, and whatever you did that evening, and since then he's been able to turn his head to the right so much easier. And prior to me bringing him into you, every time I would try to do that, he would start screaming at me. So I will say, showing up and being consistent and just investing in it before things become an issue. Like now that I'm seeing you multiple times a week, it's like we address things, and every single time I'm in here, you and I talk about what's the latest with him, and like how can we address it. Like I told you about the torticollis, and you said, oh, that's like right in my wheelhouse, I know what to do for this. And so I would just tell the moms that, you know, the consistency pays off, and putting into the kid prior to something becoming a problem is so worthwhile. It's worth it to come early on. It's worth it to be more on the preventative side versus getting to that point where you're so desperate that you're coming in here on your last effort to fix something and then working at it, you know, like that. So I think that you and I have addressed things very quickly, very early on, to where he has responded so well, being as young as he is. And I think all the C-section trauma, the stress, everything that he was going through is already resolved significantly. So I would pretty much just say, don't be afraid to try it out, because I think a lot of people don't know about it. A lot of people don't know the benefits of it. And I think it's that jump scare, but it's really so gentle and so effective that I really would encourage everyone to try it.
Wow, that's so powerful. So powerful, especially just because of all the ways we've been able to help Mr. Caden. And really the main thing whenever we talk about pediatric chiropractic is just the fact that these things do pop up early. They could be from prenatal stress, they could be from birth trauma, they could be from environmental stressors, and these things do pop up early. They have warning signs.
Yeah.
The body communicates, and if we're sensitive enough to pick up on the things that the body's communicating, we can address it early, and that really just changes the trajectory of that child's life.
Definitely.
So powerful.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for being his doctor.
My pleasure.